Welcome to Muzzle Flask 1, made by Joe Allen Freeland of cohort 16, using the May 2011 version of UDK. Again, I say this in every video, if you haven't yet, download the textures you need off SMU server. They will be in the particle section. Once you have, import them with this button. Find where you saved the Muzzle Flask textures. I have mine right here. Go ahead and import all of them. And then for the package, name it Muzzle Flash. And then just click OK to all, and it'll go through each one. Now we have our textures. You notice that the fire texture is different from the other two. It has multiple images. This is actually a sprite sheet. This is used for animations. There are things called sub-UVs that UDK you can tell how to use. So that'll go through a texture as a series of images or an animation instead of one big texture. And that's what we'll be doing with this. Take some changes to our regular method though. Right click on the fire texture, right click and create new material. Click OK. Now when we get a new material and open it up, we usually get the texture sample, and there it is. But again, for it to go through each sub image, we need the UVs. So delete the texture, and then making sure the texture is selected in content browser, find the particle sub UVs, and that will basically replace our regular texture sample. Otherwise, we still need vertex for the textures to show up, and multiply to hook them both together. Move them so we can see them. Plug particle into A, vertex going from black slot. Unless you have a special reason to use these, like opacity for red, always use the black slot because that's the basic texture. And then from multiply to, we have fire, so we use emissive, so it'll be a little bit, casting off light. And like I mentioned earlier, to get opacity, connect the red channel to opacity and change blend mode to translucent, and we're not using two-sided for this one, so leave it unchecked. Click X to leave and yes to save. Always yes, because no, this basically erases what you just did. Now with the fire material selected, right click and choose new particle system. Call it Muzzle Flash Part. Okay. Now we have the different fireballs all going out. Under required, PSA square is fine. We need the emitter time. All of these, since they're going to be triggered one at a time, like when they were triggered is going to be important, so we use emitter time. Duration 0.15. Remember, this is when the shooting happens, so it's got to be about around as fast as a bullet. And this is another one shot, so change loops to 1. Now you go down here to sub UVs and set it up so we'll be able to know what to do. Interpolation method, we switch to linear blend. It'll go through the sub-images one at a time and try to mix and match and connect them where it can, so it looks even more continuous. Sorry, this minor power outage. And then horizontal and vertical sub-images. This is basically rows and columns. However, rows go into vertical, so 2, and columns go into horizontal, which is kind of the opposite what you'd think. and we click scale UVs. Going to spawn rate, we want, that's lifetime spawn rate, double it from 20. Go down to burst. Yes, this is another burst effect. Add a point. Open it up. Count of 3 at a time. And count low. That stays the same. Go to lifetime. Again, doesn't last as long as most things, so less than 1. 0.2 for max, 0.23 for max, 0.2 for min. For a second. Sorry, interruptions. Okay, initial size is already there. Bring it down to 16, 0, and 0. And then for min, 14, 0, and 0. And then lock the axes on X, Y, and Z. Get rid of color over life by deleting it and replace with initial color. And I have no idea how long I've been going, so I'll end here. When we get back, we'll finish the fire and move on to smoke.